for you again because I'm a gentleman.
Oh, how fortunate of me.
This one's like gentleman, in fact.
Oh, look at that. Thank you.
Welcome to Raw Cider.
Thank you, sir. How long have you guys had the tasting room here?
Well, we opened up at the tasting room in May of last year, May 2024, and ran our first year, and now we're looking forward to the 2025 season and just making everything more beautiful and better.
How was that first year? Like, how was the public reception of cider? Like, you guys are one of the only people like really doing cider like this, like in the valley.
So I tell people, you know, we make European style cider. So we're not adding flavors to our cider. Our ciders are made from different European cider varieties. So they're grown for the specific purpose of making cider. And just like wine, the different profiles and especially the tannins that's in the fruit make a really nice complete beverage, just like tea or coffee and of course wine. So it's really a focus on growing fantastic quality fruit, picking it when it's ripe, and then translating those flavors as best we can into the bottle. So I'm kind of a shepherd of flavors.
Shepherd of flavors.
Shepherd of flavors.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
What I've got for you here is the Purlant. This is a single orchard blend. So it's all of the apples from one orchard in Lebanon, Oregon. And it's called Cat LaRue Purlant because Cat LaRue is the name of the orchard that it's from. A cool thing about this variety, I'll pour it really quick here so you can smell it as I'm talking about it. A cool thing about this variety, this blend, is that apples are biennial. So in any given year, you're going to get different amounts of apples from different trees. So even though it's single orchard, you know, 2023 is remarkably different from 2024 because it's a different composition of those same apples.
One of my favorite things about pouring the cider in our restaurant is people think they know what they're about to get. And they, you know, you're like, yeah, I would love to try the cider, and you pour it for them, and they think they're going to drink a traditional, like what we in the U.S. know as cider, which is going to be sweet, added flavors, things like that. And then they smell it, and they taste it for the first time, and you watch them go, oh, that's like nothing I've never had before, or I've ever had before. It's just completely different than what I think a lot of American consumers are used to.
It is a challenge, it's a hurdle, but it's also the fun part. And the cool thing too is that a lot of people aren't familiar with this overbearing existing context of words and things. So they feel more able to kind of be like, well, I smell this. And they don't have that air of like, well, did I say the right or wrong thing? You know, it's like, tell me what you're experiencing, you know. And it's fun for me too, because if they don't already have this language that they're coming in with, it's a really honest feedback as far as like what they are experiencing. And I learned from that too, a lot. I had somebody, well, with this specific blend at CiderCon, they were like, this smells like lilacs. And I was kind of like, I don't know about that. And then smelled it, and when I was at CiderCon anyway, I was like, I can see where you get lilacs from. And would you guys like to take a tour of the cidery?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
Let's go check it out. So I've got some traditional method stuff here. So this is cider that we're riddling in our own way. So you can see the leaves are kind of settling into the neck of the bottle there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to disgorge it. And what that means is super cool it, open it so that sediment goes flying out. And then you're left with a nice crystal clear product, but you get the really fine bubbles and mousse from bottle conditioning. So this is a Perry that we bottled last week. And so what's in the bottle right here is you can see that's yeast and sediment. And what they're doing is they're consuming sugar and producing CO2, so the bubbles, and a little bit more alcohol. And the reason why we do this is we get really fine bubble texture like champagne. The thing is that, you know, we can put this upright and all the sediment goes to the bottom. When you open it, it ends up being cloudy, like that. And not everybody loves that. So that's why we go through the process of tipping it up and all that sediment falls to the neck, and then opening again to disgorge that, topping it up. And you can see those kind of like really nice creamy bubbles that you get from this process. This is cider that's been juiced and either completely fermented or continuing to ferment. So the one in front of you, for example, is continuing to ferment, and this is our Early Red. In order to get residual sweetness naturally in the blend without doing anything else to it, and keeving is one way to do that, and so is successive racking.
That color. That's
Yeah.
so pretty.
It's a good apple.
So this is still fermenting right now.
Still fermenting.
How far along is it?
Well, so the whole idea of this is that this will be an intentionally stuck fermentation.
Okay.
So it's gonna, and it is almost done.
What is a stuck fermentation?
So with cider, since the sugar level in cider equates to roughly like 6 to maybe 9% ABV when you ferment it completely dry. So it's not enough to kill the yeast naturally by toxifying it with alcohol. So an intentionally stuck fermentation is transferring it or keeving it so that the yeast naturally stalls out because it doesn't have any more nitrogen to do fermentation.
I'm not entirely sure what I'm getting. I just keep
Well,
almost like Jolly Rancher kind of
Well, like the nose is like very like melon rind.
melon rind.
That cherry Jolly Rancher is like really, like especially with the juice in this blend, it's pretty apparent too, and it's like that middle tongue thickness that you kind of get from a hard candy too. So this is how our Frecken Rouge is sweeter. So our Frecken Rouge is a French apple blended with, aged for a year, and then blended with the next year's version of the stalled fermentation. And I'm also like very intrigued by what wild apples and wild pears offer in terms of flavor and sustainability. So I doubled down on that with my pears, and then this is kind of like an old traditional story of what I'm continuing. It's the varieties and then also the way that we treat them, from harvesting them to macerating and grinding them up and pressing them. And then, so it's the varieties, but then also the process that goes into it that makes it what it is.
Also, I love that I know nothing about this stuff, so this is fun. I get to learn so much more than, you know, like with Julia, right? I know how to butcher rabbits. I know how to butcher quail. I know what we're doing with it. You know how farming works. I don't know any idea what this is.
So what this is what you just tried, but bottled a month and a half ago.
Okay.
So I wanted to see what would happen if I made like a pet nat version of it. Maybe I want to make some sparkling red champagne, you know. Normally what I'll do is, since I'm doing cold fermentations in here, since it's a cooler fermentation, it's going to take longer.
I like that.
So I can take a portion of it and I can bring it into a warmer temperature, and that accelerates the fermentation. And if we're talking about a stuck fermentation, it's like hitting fast forward on the fermentation so I know where the bottom is. So I can bottle a few gravity points above that, and I know it's likely going to end at that point.
That is very cool. I would genuinely take that over most. No. Yeah. I'd take that over all pet nats that I've had.
That's a breakfast cider.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, you hit it on the head. Like a summer day, you don't want anything too crazy.
Not that interesting, but this is a fire suppression pond that we had to build in order to have occupancy.
So you in case of fire, somebody hooks up to this thing and.
Yep. We'll show you some of the trees. We're almost done pruning. Some of them aren't done. So this is kind of fun. It's a quick example of a graft. This is a red-fleshed variety called Otterson, and then the apples are bright red. The flesh on this is red, not green like an early red, but it's for making more rosé ciders. If you find apple trees out in the wild, they can get to be like 30 feet tall. An apple tree of that size takes a long time to bear fruit, and it's also hard to harvest and manage, so it's kind of a non-starter in a production orchard. So there's what's called dwarfing rootstocks. So the rootstock is what determines the size of the tree largely. So you can take a variety, let's say like Otterson, and let's say this is a 30-foot tree, I can put it on a dwarfing rootstock that's going to limit its growth so that it's only about this size. So when you graft a new scion, what it's called, the variety, you want to seal the end of it so it doesn't lose moisture, and then the graft takes. So.
Doc Farwell?
Yep.
Easier than wrapping.
How many trees?
Oh, I don't know.
More than a dozen?
More than a dozen. It's 15 acres between this side and then across the creek there we've got some more.
Okay.
I think it's around 3,000, 3,200 maybe, something like that.
All right.
Yeah. These are pears. I'd have to look at my notes to see exactly which variety they are. But pears have a lot of apical dominance, so they like to go straight up. And that's not good because you want some like space in the tree. And so you can kind of see how we're pruning here. So all of these branches, if they weren't pruned, would just kind of be like stuck in the center here. The leaves would get all jumbled, fruit wouldn't grow very well. So I prune them at a point where a bud is facing outward, and then they continue to jut out and move away from the tree. So like this, it's going up, and I want it to go out. And they're actually going to fruit better that way at a horizontal angle. This is called a broken branch, but it's also called the French axe. So if you just let something go and get overladen with fruit and it breaks naturally, that's what they call the French axe. And I learned that in France. So I kind of say some of the things in France are the art of neglect, you know? It's like blue cheese, you know, it's like,
Right.
a lot of people will be like, it's messed up, it's moldy. They're like, no. It's from a specific area, and it's like this flavor you can get nowhere else. It's cave aged, and it's like, well, I mean, you guys already had the cows. You didn't select a specific variety, and you had the cave because you're building the city and the castle, so you put it in there, and then you forgot about it, and then
Like, well,
now it's a come up because they're like, oh well.
it's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, like this. This is now a technique. It's the French axe.
So thanks for having us, Levi. We appreciate the tour.
Cheers.
You bet.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure.